Hi, and welcome everyone to the Intuition Incubator interviews. And I'm Carolyn Beauchamp, the author of the newly published book, Horses to Higher Consciousness, Riding the Cosmic Current. Yes, and look, Miss Sue has it as well. This is my inspirational memoir, and I had to learn, and I chronicled it in this book, how to trust my own intuition and listen to the voice within as opposed to the voice or voices without.
Mm.
And I have the pleasure today of having the wonderful Sue Bradley with me, and she is going to be sharing so much wisdom with you. And we've all learned about intuition, and that's why we're here, because that was the inspiration from this book. So I'll tell you a little bit about Sue. Okay, Sue Bradley. She's a spiritual life coach, a nurse, and somatic practitioner who helps women reconnect with their inner intelligence by understanding themselves as energetic human divine beings, bridging body, mind, heart, and spirit. So, welcome to the Intuition Incubator interview, Sue. I'm thrilled to have you.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank
Great.
you.
You are so welcome. And okay, before we talk about your work, I'd love to just start with you, okay? So, I want to know what was happening in your life when your healing or your transformational journey really began.
Really began. Hmm. I don't know. It's hard to just pinpoint one moment. It has been an evolution all along, that slow awakening, I think, for me. I had a lot of experiences as a child that I had no explanation for. There was a point in my life where I was seeing colors around people, and that was kind of weird, and I didn't know what that was, and there was nobody who was talking about any of that kind of stuff. And so then, experiences that I would have that there was no explanation from anybody, and I wasn't one to go ask about, do you experience this? Because that just wasn't. It was not what I did. So I had a lot of time that I would just wonder about life and what I was experiencing and just keep going and have more of the mystery be revealed to me until I guess maybe at some point where my brain said I could ask the questions. And so then I did start asking questions of the universe, sort of. And I guess the questions were coming as the wonderment. Like, wonder what that means. What is that? What is this? And so over time, things began to be revealed to me. So I don't think there was any one point that was really significant because I've always been a seeker and of the mystery. So if that answers it, there it is.
Yeah. Well, so basically then I guess you got those whispers, you got those intuitive nudges and you were getting communicated with, right? Basically from what you're saying, you were hearing whatever that you thought everybody was hearing, but of course as children, we think that everybody is thinking that, right? Or we think that everybody is experiencing what we're experiencing. We don't even think to really ask. So what happened in your life then, I guess, to really get you on the path as a profession? Like what inspired you to really want to create this life of, well, I guess you really started it with nursing, right? Is that how it started?
Well, okay. So there is a point that I can point to and say I was a nurse. I was 19. I was in a ward, a surgical ward in ICU where I worked. And I was standing next to a friend of mine he was the anesthesiologist. And there was a patient in the ward, and they were just starting open heart surgery there. Like it was a new thing. And back then they had all these tubes and things that were coming out of the person, and they would hold them in the ICU for like 7 days that they were like sedated and kept quiet. And my question to the doctor was, is there anything that this person could have done to have avoided having this problem and having to go through this. And he had no answer for me. But that, I think, was the point where the universe must have heard my question, because then throughout my nursing, I began to ask about, like, why is this happening? Why is this happening? Why is this happening? And I think over time that began to be revealed, and that's where, and you said that I thought everybody thought the way that I did. Well, that's really not the truth for me. I didn't think that, I thought I was the weird one. I thought
Oh,
nobody thought like me. So, yeah, I felt very alone and very different. I knew that I was different, but I was essentially ridiculed and held, aside, and so then I lived into that. Just stay quiet, don't say anything, don't bring any attention to yourself, because yeah, you're a little on the outside.
that means when you were young, then you probably did start saying what things you were receiving or intuiting, and people looked at you weird. Is that what you mean?
I would say yes. I don't, the word intuition and being intuitive has never really resonated with me, because I decided a long time ago that this intuition was something that everybody else had that I didn't. And so that word has never really resonated with me, because I didn't recognize that maybe that's a word that I could use of what my experience is. But I remember being very sensitive to people's emotions. And I can remember one specific time that my mom was so angry, and so I said, I asked her, I said, "What's wrong?" And she goes, "Nothing." And it was like, "Oh, okay." So then because I trusted my mom telling me the truth, what I thought was going on was she didn't validate it for me, that I was, that there was something wrong. And she
Yes.
told me there was nothing wrong, but the way that she said it, it was like, okay, that wasn't congruent. So those kinds of experiences of being negated in a way that I'm sure she just didn't want to talk about it, or, I'm a kid and she's not going to unload whatever it was that she was mad about, so I learned not to trust all of that. So it was always held very close to me, my experiences of my sensitivity.
Wow, that's a really interesting take on it that I have never heard before.
Mm,
Wow, because yes, as a child, then you think, well, if I'm feeling something, but she tells me that it's wrong and I'm not, then I must be wrong,
That's
right?
exactly right. That's exactly correct. I was always wrong.
Right, so
Mm,
I'm picking up something that's not real, was what you were thinking.
yeah,
So, well, and that's interesting. And so intuition never resonated with you, even though you were intuitive. You were
if that's what you
very
want to call
intuitive.
it. Yeah, I was definitely I'm a sensitive. Yeah. And I experience energy. I saw energy, but I didn't know what it was. Nobody could ever validate my experience, so I must be wrong. Something must be wrong with me. So I was always on the outside, knowing that I was different than everybody else and I didn't fit in. I didn't know where I fit in. So yeah, that was a block for a lot of years.
Well, that's so interesting. I write about that in the book, about feeling like a misfit with no working compass, because my goals were completely different. And what I was wanting and desiring and thinking too in my heart didn't jive with what the adults around me were. So we both got it in a different way. I don't think mine was as much of an intuitive as what you were feeling, even though I was very um, aware that I wasn't feeling like them, kind of basically.
Yeah.
But so
But
I
you did
guess,
talk about following your heart and your own personal leading, and you were bold enough to do it. Not me.
yeah, but I wasn't bold enough to do it when I was a youngster. We're like, if we
Right.
talk about when we were little girls,
Yeah.
I didn't, well, I always rebelled, and you probably, maybe you didn't. I did as a
Mhm.
teenager, but I still kind of, oh, you were the straight and narrow.
Oh, yeah. I was the number four child of five. And, my dad was military. and my mom was the nurse, and you just didn't backtalk your parents. You followed what they said. They were the authority, you know, just
Well,
shut up
that's
and fall in step. So
well,
I did.
that's interesting because I'm four of six. So we
Mm,
kind of have a similar dynamic. And my father was a professional and everything, the country club and everything has to be in order. So
mm,
we do have similar upbringings. So yeah, and I rebelled when I was a teenager, but I still didn't know. And I went along in college with it until, as you know, if you read the whole book, that I finally said, oh, I have to do something different, even though I don't know what that is. And that wasn't until I was in my early 20s. So, my question now to you is look at you now. So, obviously, at some point, you started listening to the voice within as opposed to the voices without. So, you were in nursing and you were still feeling like you were going along with the program, but you were asking these questions. So, do you remember what that turning point was when you finally said, oh, there's more to this than meets the eye? What happened? How did that unfold?
mm.
Because you went from nursing to what? Like, were you still
Massage
nursing?
therapist. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that would be me.
Well, there was a traumatic event in that one. I'd worked for this company for 11 and a half years, and the people that owned the company, the woman died, and then there was somebody who was wanting to be, in the bed with the owner, and I was a threat because, I'd been there for that long. They had offered me a vice presidency position, but I didn't want to move, and so she wanted me out. And that's what the woman that when she was alive, that was the owner, she said, I pray people in and I pray people out. And if you don't belong here, then you're out. And if you do, then you stay. And so this was one of those things where after 11 and a half years, I'd been a supervisor of, a, a part of their company in this town. And she came in and said, okay, you're doing this wrong, this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. We're going to put you on probation. And it was like, what? Probation? And so then there were other things that happened that my integrity was being challenged. And so then I knew that I didn't belong there any longer. And so at that point, there was a turning, I suppose, that I don't belong here any longer. And I remembered that that woman, she prayed us in and she prayed us out, and it was time for me to change. So my mom supported because I had had an experience with massage therapy. I went to school to learn how to be a massage therapist, but I was still working as a nurse because I had told the universe if there's any way that I can do this, this is what I would love to do. But it wasn't until maybe a year or two after I graduated that I was just doing that on the side as kind of a something. But I'm very tactile. I'm a very good surgical nurse. I do well with my hands. I'm a healer in my hands, and but I didn't realize all of that until, hindsight. So I moved to massage therapy after this traumatic event of being a nurse and being a supervisor and having my integrity called into question, that I knew I didn't belong there any longer. So that's whenever I was, a force, I guess maybe. There was
Yes.
a force working on my behalf because massage therapy is it for me. Best job I ever had. It's not work at all. I'm still a massage therapist. And yeah, I still use all of my nursing, but I'm not being paid as a nurse. So that, I guess maybe if that answers your question about the turning point.
It does. I mean, and that was interesting because sometimes, and I've had this conversation with others, we think it's bad or we think, oh, that shouldn't have happened, but really, it happened for you, not to you,
Yes.
because it allowed you to segue into what your heart was really telling you. So the universe was nudging you in that direction, and but you were nudging yourself by going to school in the first place.
Mhm.
Whatever inspired you when you were nursing? What inspired you to say, "Oh, I'm just going to go to massage therapy"?
Well, it was an experience that I had at the time. I was single, and I had three other friends that I would hang around. We called ourselves the Singletons. And so one of them was always out exploring all kinds of things. So he found a therapist and he was a rolfer, and his wife was a Chinese medicine. And so they were putting on 6 or 8 week experience for massage for couples. Well, we decided since there were four of us, we would go and participate. And the very first night, we sat in a circle and they offered us objects and just asked us to close our eyes. And they placed an object in our hands and just to have the experience of the object. So I got a sphere and I was holding this object and it was like it just came alive in my hands and like it was that was the switch, I guess, that came on for me about realizing that, oh my goodness. So when I left that night, that's whenever I told the universe, if there's any way that I could, you know, study this or whatever, I say yes. And so we went through that. We learned how to do massage for couples, and then it was in that company, I was moving from the Medicare department to the Medicaid department, and they asked me to be a supervisor, and that's where that change from. Uh, anyway, that was where I was going to have more time, where it was an 8 to 5 job, Monday through Friday, and I said, well, okay, I'll move to this new department if you allow me the opportunity to go to school for massage. And they said, yes, as long as you work your 40 hours, we don't care when you do it. So that's what I said. Okay. So I figured out I could go to work on Monday from 8 to 12. I drove for 4 hours from Corpus Christi to Austin. And I would go to school from 5 to 9. I spent the night with a friend, and then I would go to school on Tuesday from 9 to 5, and then I would drive home back to Corpus Christi that night. And so I did that for, I don't know, however many months it was that, for me to train as a massage therapist. And that's how I got that done. And then I worked as a nurse because, I was a single woman, mom. I needed to provide for him because I was having issues with the ex-husband not paying child support, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, that's how that all turned out.
Wow. So that was very I mean that was you really took the bull by the horns with that because you were doing two things at once and you followed your intuition and you followed through. So you had done the sphere even before that though. So you did the massage therapy. So tell us what happened with that led into more your spiritual coaching and your counseling because
Mhm.
that you were going from a massage therapist. There's something missing here, something maybe I'm feeling that happened during massage therapy, or what was the next step for
Yeah,
that?
there's never been anything missing. I'll just put a period on that. There's never been
Okay.
anything missing. Everything is always unfolding and expanding.
Right.
And
I mean, a
so
missing
with
step in my mind. I'm going, what's this?
oh
She's doing massage, she's doing nursing, then she's doing massage. Now all of a sudden she's doing all this other stuff. I
well,
mean, more clarity, I guess.
okay.
Not missing,
So
but clarity.
yeah, as a massage therapist, I'm working one-on-one with people's energy.
Hmm.
And women, I'm down to only women. I work with only women. There's a long history with that too. So I realized that when somebody comes in, I would ask them, what's been happening? What do you bring me? So if they've got a crick in their neck, then there might be something that's happening that they're doing repetitive, whatever, like sitting at a computer or something. And then they give me a little bit more of what's happening in their life, and there's this emotional part of it. And then maybe I'm recognizing that there's the thoughts create the emotions. And so, what are the patterns of your behavior, and how does it show up in your body? So, I was beginning to put all that together and realizing that I've been coaching for years and years and years and years and years. Even as a nurse, I was coaching people. I just didn't know that that's what it was called.
Oh, well, that's what I mean because
Yeah.
that's that, right. That is a perfect perfect
Mhm.
explanation. That's what I was getting to when I was saying I don't see the jump, but now I do because you were
Yeah.
seeing the physical, what was being in their body physically had to do with their emotions.
Well, and again, that's going back to the very first thing that I told you about that person that was in the bed that had had open heart surgery. What
Yeah,
was going on in their life that their body, their heart decided to, start shutting down and closing off the nourishment to the muscle, like what was that?
yeah,
And realizing that there was a connection between our thoughts and our emotions and our physical body and our spiritual body, so yeah, there is like our whole being. That's in my in this right here that we have these four parts to our being, the spiritual, the physical, the mental, and emotional. And this is our whole being, you know.
yeah.
This is the light, the source that comes through that gives us life, that source of all that is, the spirit that animates this human body. So, yeah, that's how it's all begun to come together in my. I became a Sufi practitioner years ago, and then I went through training to become a coordinator for a particular lineage that gave me an incredible new perspective. I come from Christian based, and so there's that. And that kind of had a lot of limitations and things that were like, what? And so then my opportunity to work with a spiritual director in Sufism opened up a whole new perspective. This whole idea that we are living, we are a human divine being, and it is, the spirit that animates and gives life to this human body. And so we get sometimes stuck on in our humanness that's we only see our life from the human aspect when there's so much more. And I guess, I've that's part of my questioning is that there is more. Like, what is that? What is that? Ooh, what is that?
Well, there you just pulled another, surprise out of your bag because all of a sudden you're going from Christian based to Sufism. I'm like, "Well, how did that come about? Oh, who did you? What? I go, what did she just say? Where? Who did you meet her? How did that happen? See, that's the universe, of course, nudging us. That's your intuition guiding you to the next thing, saying yes to what was being presented. But what was that about? I'm fascinated. Share with us, how did you get into that? Did you meet someone or what happened there?
Well, at the time, my best friend attended, it was a church, and they were having going to the first Sufi retreat here in Texas. And they have a group of women, 5 or 6 women together, and they were all going to go. Well, one of them couldn't go. And so this ticket became available. And she said, my best friend said, do you want to go? And I said, yes, I'll go. I
There
didn't
you
know what it
go.
was, but because I was going to be included in this group, that's why I said yes. It wasn't about, the Sufi
No,
retreat.
right.
Yeah. So I went and I really resonated with all the things that were happening. And one of the things, they had a universal dance that we did one night. And there was a particular song that we were all singing, and we had partners, like we moved around in a circle and we looked into the eyes of the person that was standing in front of us, and it was talking about you are loved. And it was the very first time that I had the experience of someone human looking into me with pure love, no expectations, no attachments. It was just pure love and being seen for the very first time. And I was just weeping by the
Oh,
time that we finished the circle and the song. How could anyone ever tell you that you were anything less than beautiful, and it was like, oh my gosh, So, and
yes.
then there was another woman there. I had done some breath work with another woman, and I had this experience where I was looking up, and there was this like a square, and there were two beings on each side of the square. And it was like a portal that opened up, and I could see my mom on the other side of the portal. I had taken care of her for like 3.5 years, like intimately taking care of her. And she had passed, right? So I was grieving, I'm sure, but I saw her on the other side, and she was reaching for me, and I was reaching for her. And then all of a sudden, the portal closed. And I didn't know what to do with that. I was like, oh my God. So I tell this experience to this woman at the Sufi retreat. And it turns out that she had, as a mother, lost her 13-year-old son. And so she asked me at some point in our conversation, would you consider that your mom has a life that she's living in a different realm on the other side, wherever, and that she has her work to do there and you have your work to do here? Would you be willing to just allow that thought? And it was like, well, okay. So then it was like going back to my Christianity, we talk about heaven, that it's a place that when we leave here, we're going to go there. And so then it was like, well, okay, this heaven, it's not like it's going to start happening and life starts happening when I get there. No, it's going on right now at the same time that I'm living this life. My mom's in a higher vibration, living her life, doing whatever it is that she's doing. And so I decided that I wanted to know more about what she was telling me. And so that's how I got hooked up with her. And she became my spiritual director, my spiritual guide. And then that was the journey that I've been on with the perspective of Sufism that really opened up a broader perspective, that the things that I used to question about Christianity were like, oh, that's what Jesus meant. Or, oh, that's what they were trying to tell me. But maybe that got a little, you know, wonkadoo because,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
That's interesting because I talk about that in here too. You probably read that about mine, that I
mhm.
would say, it didn't make sense to me because I would always say, well, if Jesus said, these things I do, you can do, and greater things than these you will do, why are we not doing that? And what was he talking about, right? So I always felt the same way you did with the Christianity. There were missing pieces of to the puzzle, and it just didn't make sense, and it never resonated, I guess is the good word, never resonated with me on any level because there were too many unanswered questions.
Mm,
Where what you're describing for you and your path with, it's so fascinating how everybody is divinely guided in their own way
yeah.
to get to that point. So tell me what it's like now living as this human divine being. What is that to you? What does that tell us what that is for you?
It is sheer joy.
Oh,
Joy, joy, joy. I'm having the time of my life. It's like, oh my gosh. This is so much fun because my perspective is that I am co-creating. Nothing has been set in stone. There's no destiny. There is something that has been placed upon my heart that gets to unfold in real time every moment. That's one of the things that they told me, is that every moment is a portal into the sacred. So if we don't like where we are in this human experience, we get to choose differently. We can turn. And that was one of the things that I haven't thrown my Christianity out at all. But when we talk about sin, sin actually is missing the mark. That's the basic,
yes,
like
that's
that's what
right.
sin means, missing the mark. And so if I'm not aimed at the mark, which is this relationship with the one and staying in alignment, I have turned my face away from God, which is that holds a lot of baggage. But if I turn my face away from the one, I am now misaligned and I'm working without this. And
Yes.
so having that perspective and that understanding that I just need to keep coming back, that's coming back home to myself, because within myself, I am the I am. And so
Yes.
that, in using punctuation, There was back in the Old Testament, I am that I am.
Yes.
I am, period. That I am. Oh, that I am. Okay.
Oh, now it makes sense.
Yeah. So if that I am is pouring through me and is what is animating me, then I am that. I know people would have problems with saying, "Oh, you think you're God?" Well,
Exactly.
yeah, I kind of am. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not the God. I am not the source, but the Sufis talk about the source of all that is, the creator is like the sun, and we are each a ray of that sun. And when we can't exist being disconnected from the sun because we are an extension of that. And that's
Right.
what Jesus was talking about. You know, I am in,
Exactly.
you are in me, and I am in you. And that whole circle thing, it was like I used to think, what? But now I get it.
Yeah, because I am in the Father and the Father is in me. Didn't that was one of Jesus's sayings,
Yeah.
right?
Well, he
Well,
was telling us, but his paradigm, and that was one of the things that I uh, made, oh, what would I want to say? It was okay, is that Jesus' container was about God the Father. And so, okay, well, I can understand this unknowable, unnameable entity as a father, but then I've got issues. So I can name it because
yes.
once we name that unknowable, unnameable, we've already made it small because that's how our little brains and minds can do it. So I don't have to like say, oh, no, 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 I don't, not anymore. I can say, oh, okay, if I want to talk about this thing as God the Father, and that brings me comfort. And, because sometimes I need a father, but sometimes I need a mother. And
Yeah. The
sometimes
divine feminine.
exactly. So, like what label do I need to put on this energy? I can call it whatever I want. I can call it in however way that I need it. And I'm okay with all of that. So
And
that's
that
where it's given me permission to allow this spaciousness and for this uh, co-creation energy to show up in the way that I need it to best bring forward my greatest iteration.
absolutely. And everybody, did you hear what Sue said just a few minutes ago? Every moment is a portal to the sacred. Is that what you said?
I did.
Every moment is a portal to the sacred. Listen to that.
Mhm.
That's a mantra. That is such a beautiful statement. That rung right away with me. I'm like, wow. I didn't want to interrupt you because you were still talking, but after you said it, I was just like, what did she just say? I was like, wow, that was beautiful.
Mhm.
Beautiful. So, well, let me ask you a question. Why do you think it is that so many women, especially in midlife, um, feel something missing even though everything looks good on the outside? Everything looks fine on the outside, but what do you think that is that they feel, I don't know, what would be like, stuck or disconnected or
Well, okay, so now I would turn to my Toltec input. Uh, the Toltecs talk about we're born, we're this innocent, beautiful little entity of child. And we are born into a culture, particular parents, a family, a birth order, a culture of language, a government. And all those things begin to formulate us as a human. It's called domestication. That's what the word that they use, the
ah,
domestication or the human programming, because we are told if you're going to survive, you need to behave this way, you need to be doing this, you need to, whatever our culture, our religion, whatever it is, we are domesticated. And so we're like this little wild being that has to be taught how to behave so that we can be accepted by our tribe and so that we can survive. And if we don't do, and that was the thing, we are geared for survival. If we don't do what we're supposed to do, we can be outcasted and we'll die that's that whole fight, flight, freeze thing that's programmed in our mind. Like we
yeah,
are that's part of the natural thing that we have. And so the domestication, we live that in order to survive our childhood. And then
Hmm.
we come into adulthood and out we go. And we're trying to work out this, what they call the book of law. So there's a book of law. Again, you need to behave this way. This is how you act. This is when you do this. This is how you do this. We're told all of that as we're growing up. And that's the
Right.
book of law. And then they hand it to you and say, okay, here you go. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess I better start working out the book of law, of the Christianity. I'm supposed to be going to church every week and, I'm supposed to be kind and I need to get a job and I need to do all these things and I'm working that out and I do that for the 20s and the 30s and the 40s and it's like, man, you get to the 40s and it's like, oh, I'm just not having any fun. I mean, like what is this all there is? And that's that moment of waking up to go, sheesh. Is this all there is? And no, it's not all there is.
No, and it's just the beginning of your life, right?
Yeah, well, it can be. And so we get stuck in trying to work out this domestication and this book of law when we finally go, this is just not working for me. So what else is there? And we can begin to look into how do I get unstuck? You've already been programmed. You've already had these experiences that you made decisions about yourself, who you are in the world, and how you function. And you're trying to fulfill these things that other people put on you. Like you said, you're working from the outside of what the world tells you you're supposed to be doing because that's how we did it as children trying to survive. But when we make that turning point of going inside and looking, okay, that's part of what is on my thing here is that we get situated in here and this is the perspective that we come from, then our light, we can start letting our light come out instead of, living life from inside out instead of living life outside in.
Wow, I love that you're explaining that because just looking at it, I wouldn't know. So
Mhm.
tell us a little more about the your whole symbol there. So the line straight up is your connection, right, with the source. So
Yeah.
the middle is the self, right?
Yeah, this is the divine that is
Yeah.
anchored into all the way down to our humanity. And then of course we have the heart. That's the center where everything comes together. We've got
Oh,
the fire within, which
yeah.
is for me
Oh,
the spirit, that connection there. And then we have the crown chakra, which is the connection to the divine. And yeah, so and then the four aspects of our being, which are the spiritual, mental, emotional, and
physical.
mental. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Wow.
then this is the whole, because the Toltecs talk about us being born with a big soul and a little soul. So their big soul would be like our spirit, and the little soul is the ego, the personality, the personal mind, as Singer would say. And we need both of those. But what happens is when we're born, that connection that we have with our big soul and our little soul starts to get covered over because of all of our domestication and our belief systems and things, so we lose that connection as we go. And I think that's where women in their 40s, they probably have lost their connection to their divine. And maybe they're trying to work out that connection through their religion, but it's just not, the religion is not the thing. It's the relationship with the one. It's not about the
Absolutely.
religion is just a path to get to that relationship. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, if women, women that are listening, if there are women that are listening who are feeling overwhelmed and feeling disconnected, where would be a gentle place for them to start, to begin to
Mm.
reconnect to this, do you think?
Well, for me, my breath. I mean, that is the inspiration, is breathing in the spirit and coming and looking within and sitting with self.
Mhm.
And if you don't have any experience of that, then finding someone who can help you in whatever way that needs to happen for you is getting a mentor and a guide, which is what I do. somebody who has already walked the path and has maybe they're 10 steps ahead of you, but can call you and bring you back home to yourself and give you a perspective and teach you. So, the breath is the very first thing because if we have no breath here, we have no life here on earth.
Oh,
So,
that's true. Well,
yeah.
then tell us about your coaching and how you work with people and do people have an initial consultation with you or do you have something introductory you'd like to offer people to get in touch with you? How do you go about your coaching in that way and with people?
Well, anybody can reach out. I generally only work with women because that is my forte. So I am still healing from some trauma, and I'm in working with that. So men right now are not my ideal client. Women are. So I'm not making any apologies to the men. I am in process, but that may be coming. But right now, women are my clients. That's who I want to work with because that's who I understand. And
Yeah.
I have a tool that I created, and it's a personal energy assessment. And so it's a way in to start looking at these four aspects of our being, where we evaluate what is the condition of our energy. Like we may find that we're out of whack. We have too much of this energy and not enough of this energy. And that's a place to start finding where do I need to come back into balance. And so I do have right now a 4 session transformational series where if there's something that's on your heart, something that you want to transform, we can have a clarity call and figure that out. And in 4 sessions, I have many, many tools to utilize that if there's one particular thing you want to transform, then let's talk about it and see whether I'm your person to help you. And if I am, that I have the ability. I'm sure I have the ability, but if it would work for both of us. So, yeah.
So that sounds wonderful. So how do people go about getting this assessment? Can you put something in the Intuition Incubator
Yes.
Facebook page that would let them know that they wanted it, like a
Yes.
word or
Because
something?
this is going to be a video that hangs in the group for a while, right?
Yes, this is going to be in
Okay,
the
then
Facebook group.
I'll put it in the comments and then they can just click on it and it'll take them they put in their name and their email and then I'll be able to get it to them. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then if someone just wanted to reach out to you personally, just to talk to you, how would they reach you?
They can put in the comments or they can DM me. I'm very accessible on Facebook. So yeah,
Okay.
that'd be great.
So,
I would
and
love that.
and do you have a website that they can go to see
I
more or?
do, but it's not healthy and active. So I
Oh,
would rather you just contact me directly. That's some of my growth area. I'm
yeah.
celebrating 2 years in business as Sue Bradley Coaching, and my celebration party is tomorrow on January 21st. So, yeah, I'm still growing and learning, and my website will be coming. I have one, but it's one that I created in my first grade art. So yeah. Yeah.
That's funny. So,
Just contact me directly. Yeah.
so you can DM Sue, direct message her right in the messenger. And what is the word if they want to put something in there that you can
Energy.
energy.
Energy. Energy, because that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, we are an energetic being. This whole life is all about energy. Everything is energy.
That's right. Everything is energy. So if anybody wants to put energy in the Intuition Incubator interviews page, then Sue will see it and she will get in touch with you or DM her. So this was fantastic, and it was so wonderful hearing about your journey and all these things you're pulling out of the box. All these little secrets. You're first acting like, oh. I don't know. It just kind of happened. And then all of a sudden there's all these amazing experiences that are coming
Mhm.
up. So
Yeah.
it was really wonderful, and I'm happy to know you, happy to have been able to share this interview with you and learn even more about you and about your practice and how you help people. And thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who was here. And we will see you back again soon. Oh, there they are.
And there's confetti too. Woo! And then there's yeah, some what is that? Fireworks.
Oh, the fireworks. Oh my God, that is so fun.
Woo!
That's
Come
what
to my party tomorrow. Yes.
absolutely come to Sue's party.
Yeah,
And this,
celebrate with me.
yes, and this was a wonderful, wonderful interview. And all
So
the
much fun.
fireworks, the hearts, and the confetti were definitely appropriate.
Thank you,
Oh, thank
Carolyn.
you, Sue, and thank you to everyone who was here. Thank you so much, and stay tuned for another very inspiring, beautiful, heartfelt intuition incubator interview coming soon. Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks
Bye.
again, Sue. Love you.
All right.
Bye
Love you.
bye.